It's time for our technology report, and joining us now is our tech reporter, Paul Ndiho. Take it away, Paul.
Hello, Esther. Nigeria has a vibrant and growing tech sector. Large firms are delivering services in healthcare, agriculture, and finance, while smaller firms are providing e-commerce platforms and other retail-related services. But a new report conducted in 2018 raises concerns about the fundamentals of the business environment. Joining me to talk about the survey is Vijaya Ramachandran, one of the authors of the report and a senior fellow at the Center for Global Development. Vijaya, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for having me.
So tell me about the report. What were your findings?
So our report is based on the analysis of a survey of 93 tech firms conducted in Nigeria last year, jointly with the One Campaign. Their offices in Abuja conducted the survey and interviewed tech entrepreneurs, and we asked them about the challenges that they face operating in Nigeria.
There are about 55 very active tech startups in Nigeria that managed to raise about $100 million, as opposed to maybe 59 in Southern Africa that raised $60 million. How did that come about?
So Nigeria has a booming tech sector. It has a large population that will consume the services offered by this sector, and it has a very talented pool of young workers who can supply the manpower that's needed for app development, for digital platforms, for e-commerce, for retailing, and so on.
Just a quick follow-up on that. What has contributed this growth, especially in the tech sector?
I think many things. You know, it's a very attractive market, both for international firms and for local suppliers. As I said, you know, it has this very talented pool of young workers. It has a big market. It's very strategically located. I mean, Nigeria, in many ways, is the future of Africa, and I think everybody from the tech sector to other sectors are aware of that.
What struck you the most? What surprised you?
So I think we were surprised by, you know, how the constraints that entrepreneurs face are so basic. So, you know, people have talked about broadband cost and, you know, the failure of payments technologies and so on. And these are valid concerns. But what we found in our survey is that most entrepreneurs are complaining about electricity. They need a reliable, continuous source of electricity, and often they're not getting that.
Is that a result of the government failing to do that, or the government hasn't built an ecosystem where these guys can thrive?
So I think the government is trying to improve the supply of electricity, and it has, you know, conducted some reforms in the past few years, privatized some services, and so on. But the bottom line is the generation companies and the distribution companies do not have a cost-effective tariff structure. And so they're not able to make enough money. And so electricity is undersupplied.
Who are the major players, for example, in the agri or fintech or edutech?
Yes, there are a number of very exciting players. There's Andela, of course, which everybody has heard of. There's InterSwitch, which is a big digital payments company, which just got a $200 million investment from Visa. There's a very interesting agriculture app called Farm Crowdy. There are a whole range of apps. There's an app that supplies, that connects customers that need blood to hospitals that have blood. So there are a number of developers who are trying to address inefficiencies in the existing economy.
For companies like Andela or like Bloodlink, how are they able to stay competitive despite the fact that there is so much happening on the ground and everybody is trying to tap into that market?
So, you know, a number of these companies have a very good services to offer. They're addressing a gap that exists. But also we find that a number of these companies, to stay competitive, are using generators, you know, round the clock. And while that is enabling them to be efficient, it's also extremely expensive.
I also find it interesting that most tech giants here are looking at Nigeria as a potential place where they can do business. Why is that, as opposed maybe to going to South Africa or Kenya or Uganda?
So I think they are looking at those countries as well, but Nigeria presents a particularly attractive opportunity because of its very large market and its large pool of consumers who are willing to buy these services, whether it be services in healthcare or in finance, or whether it be consumer goods. Lots of companies are using digital platforms to buy and sell goods, and that's also very attractive in a very large market.
Of the 94 tech firms that you looked at, which one has the potential maybe to launch an IPO in the next year or 2 years?
So I think a number of the larger ones will probably announce IPOs. I think that many of the firms in healthcare look to me to be, potential candidates, including the ones that are trying to address these linkages in blood and so on. But there are other healthcare firms too that I think look very interesting. I also think there's a lot of potential for companies that are in the payments system because Nigerian companies have tried to use international apps, and that's been a mixed bag. Whereas if there are more local suppliers of digital payments technology, I think those could be very successful.
So you also talked about this burgeoning market in Nigeria, but what are some of the solutions? How can somebody maybe find a solution to those problems?
So I think it's really, really important to get the basics of the business environment fixed. In some sense, we are looking at a 21st century sector, the tech sector, but the problems that the entrepreneurs are talking about are 20th century problems. They are problems with electricity, with basic services. And so I think, fixing that will be very important.
Thank you so much, Vijaya. That was Vijaya Ramachandran, a senior fellow at the Center for Global Development. Back to you, Esther.
Thank you very much, Paul. And be sure to join Paul Ndiho each Wednesday for another tech report right here on Africa 54. And